Greetings everyone and welcome to Grandchampionsleaguestrawberrycream season with Alzeroy. In this video, I'm going to show you my best run during this competition, and I do apologize for keeping this video for so long and not putting it on YouTube as soon as possible. That's because, well, just take a look at the length of the video. It's quite long, isn't it? And I've decided to edit every single video on the top 100 first, even though this video is the one that is supposed to be released first, not the top 100 first, because, well, you might have noticed that when I do the top 100 videos, a lot of those videos are a lot shorter compared to this one. Anyway, if you do like this kind of content, then be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to ring the bell so you will not miss out on anything that I put on this channel. Everything is free, you don't need to pay, and by subscribing you make this channel grow and flourish even more, which makes me happy so I can create more content for you to watch. So, as usual, we start our journey at the preliminary round, and when I saw this round for the first time, my mind just goes, oh my god, really? A destruction-based stage at the first hurdle? Oh my goodness, I'm going to have a terrible start in this competition, aren't I? I mean, Devsisters could have just put Ninja Cookie or Scorpion Cookie as the relay cookie, and that would make this stage even more difficult than what was actually you see right now. We use Dark Choco Cookie as the relay cookie. Thankfully though, we use Dark Choco Cookie as the relay cookie. That doesn't make this stage any easier though. Now let's talk about the cookies that we are using in this particular run. The first cookie is Purple Yam Cookie. Although if you have this cookie, you must have noticed that my version of Purple Yam Cookie is slightly different. That's because I've equipped him with the super epic costume. This super epic costume is called the Violet Dragon Storm. This costume was first introduced in the Isle of Awakening Dragons update. That's the update where we got to see Rambutan Cookie and Lychee Dragon Cookie were introduced and made playable for the first time. And yes, that was a very difficult trick. So many of my attempts conquering this one particular stage ended prematurely because I didn't got the health potions there. And yes, this is part of the strategy. And now it's time for the relay cookie's turn to run. This is Dark Choco Cookie, and I've equipped him with the Return of the Prince super epic costume. This was the costume that was introduced for the first time in the Draconis Immortalis update. That's the Season 10 update in CookieRunOvenBreak. And the one thing that I'm regretting at this particular attempt was not equipping Dark Choco Cookie with the Sovereign of Darkness super epic costume, because that was my first ever super epic costume when I played this game for the first time long time ago. And for new players out there who play this game and have no idea where the stages took place, I've talked about it in my previous video, which you can see at the top right of the screen. Long story short, all of the stages at this particular run took place at the Dragon's Battlefield Breakout Run. I could be wrong on this one, and if I'm wrong then let me know in the comment section down below. But as far as I'm aware, if you are a new player at this game, this is most likely the first map that you will experience the breakout mode on CookieRunOvenBreak. And this particular stage, Lava Rain Battlefield, was the last stage in Dragon's Battlefield breakout map when this map was introduced for the first time. But now let's move on into the next round, which is main round, round 1. Now, main round 1 of the Grandchampionsleaguestrawberrycream season, and I'm not going to lie, the competition was a lot tougher than I thought. I was leading quite far, but then the competitors get their score much closer to me, but thankfully I managed to hold off and get first place. And it's at this point I kind of wish that Devsisters maintain the system that they use in the candlelight season, I think, where if you place first, you get extra hearts. So, or like strawberry, but that one I might ask a bit too much. Wait a second, did I say candlelight? I mean zombie cookie. Yeah, the Grand Champions League zombie season, that is what I'm looking for. Anyway, back to the run itself, where we find ourselves at the Spooky Spider Mansion, which is one of the breakout maps in CookieRunOvenBreak. I remembered when I played this game for the first time, it had a different way of the scoring system. And if you do wonder what it looked like back when I played this game for the first time, then you can check it out by clicking the link at the top right of the screen. But to keep the long story short, it used to be that collecting coins as much as possible was the top priority. In fact, to get into the top 100, the player needs to do exactly that. But at some point, Devsisters changed the system. Now, despite this map was and still is a coin-themed breakout map, getting as much coin as possible is no longer the top priority. Now we use the point system just like with every other breakout map. I'm not going to lie, I do miss the coin-based scoring system, but the point system that we have right now is a better change compared to what we used to have back then. Back then, there were only a couple of cookies that were viable. Cookies such as Adventurer Cookie, Blackberry Cookie, Onion Cookie, and Truffle Cookie do carry some kind of bonus while running on this particular breakout map. If for whatever reason the player doesn't have any of those 4 cookies that I mentioned, the player could have just used cookies that do have some kind of coin bonus, such as Pirate Cookie or Sorbet Shark Cookie or Mint Choco Cookie, and last but not least, Cheesecake Cookie. And speaking of bonuses, this will be the second and final time that I entered the secret areas of this run. This kind of secret areas do make an appearance in the normal Spooky Spider Mansion breakout map. The way the player can enter these secret areas is by using a special key located at the first map of this particular breakout stage, which is the Spooky Hallway. Now we are entering the Creepy Parlor, which is the second map in this breakout stage. Is it at this point during the run I noticed that the cookies health drain a lot faster than usual? So it looks like Dark Fondue Cookie here with the performance review super epic costume will not last for long. As for the Relay Cookie, which replaced Dark Fondue Cookie, it is the turn of Zombie Cookie. And yes, I've missed some of those Spider Mansion coin, which is not a good thing. Anyway, where was I earlier? Oh yes, Zombie Cookie. You might have noticed that my version of Zombie Cookie is slightly different compared to the original. This is because I've equipped my Zombie Cookie with the super epic costume called the Galactic Admiral. Yes, this is a limited time costume, and the only way a player can get their hands on this costume is by participating in the Grand Champions League zombie season, which took place back in December 2024, so yeah, quite a long time ago. Now here comes Eerie Balcony, the third and final stage in the Spooky Spider Mansion breakout map. This is the place where Truffle Cookies trial took place. It just so happened that this stage is also used as the final stage in the round 1 of the Grandchampionsleaguestrawberrycream season. It's at this point when I record this video, I realized that despite having a super epic costume that is themed around the Grand Champions League, Zombie Cookie doesn't have its own cookies trial, which is weird considering that there are some other cookies that is in the same type of rarity but also have their own cookies trial. I'm talking about Angel Cookie, Devil Cookie, and last but not least, the most famous example, Cheesecake Cookie. Anyway, let's move on into the next round, which is main round, round 2 of the Grand Champions League Strawberry Cream season. So, main round 2 of the Grand Champions League Strawberry Cream season, and I have to admit, despite having the legendary costume, I managed to purchase it to the costume shop. I only gained second place on this one. If I had not purchased the legendary costume through the costume shop, I might gain even worse result, because before I purchased this particular legendary costume called the Zephyr of Life, I only have William Archer Cookie's Guardian of the Millennial Tree Super Epic costume. Just to put a disclaimer out there, this recording was taken before Dark Enchantress Cookie received her newest legendary costume called the Path to Inevitable Perdition. Come to think of it, I never have Dark Enchantress Cookie's first legendary costume called the Chaos Incarnate, whereas Longan Dragon Cookie, which is a cookie that was released much later compared to Dark Enchantress Cookie, I have both of Longan Dragon Cookie's legendary costume. And both of them are the villains of the CookieRunOvenBreak. So yeah, with some hopefully tremendous amount of luck, I managed to get Dark Enchantress Path to Inevitable Perdition legendary costume, and that will be the first one that I have, which in my opinion, her design at that particular legendary costume is much better compared to the first one. Anyway, back to the run itself, where skipping some of these fallen spirits are part of the strategy. This strategy exists because we want to end Win Archer Cookie's run with his final skill, and if the player keep firing at every single fallen spirits that the player can see, then finishing Win Archer Cookie's run with the final skill is basically impossible. For those of you who do wonder where all of the stages took place in this particular run, then you can check it out by clicking the link at the top right of the screen. To keep the long story short once again, all of the stages in the main round, round 2 of the Grand Champions League Strawberry Cream season took place at the Island of Memories game mode. Specifically, it is the memories related to Dr. Wasabi and Master Cookie. In fact, these stages, which you can see right now, is the stage where the boss fight took place in that particular game mode. This is also the place where Kiwi Cookie's trial took place. I've covered this particular Cookie's trial even though that was a long time ago. And now here we are at the final stage in this particular run. This is the place where Dr. Wasabi Cookie's trial took place. Now with the relay cookie, Marble Bread Cookie. If you do have this cookie, you might have realized that my version of Marble Bread Cookie is slightly different compared to the original. That's because I've equipped him with the super epic costume called the Head of Facility Management. This was a super epic costume that was released during the Time Rally Chaos update. That was the update where we saw two brand new playable cookies, which was Snowball Cookie and Marble Bread Cookie himself. Thankfully, by the time Marble Bread Cookie's turn to run starts, there are no more tricks left. But yeah, collecting these rainbow berry jellies perfectly is much easier said than done. Some of the rainbow berry jellies that I did not manage to collect were part of my mistake, but some of them occurred because of the trajectory of the cookie run, well, pun intended, the path in which the cookie took, especially during the switch from the main cookie to the relay cookie. Yeah, it was inevitable. Anyway, let's move on into the next round, which is the main round, round 3 of the Grand Champions League Strawberry Cream season. And yeah, I have to admit, this was a very tough group. I mean, half of the competitors are tryhard just like me, and I just could not like get a better result compared to this one. And yeah, this wasn't on my bingo card. I got eliminated in the same stage as Devsisters used in the semi-final round 3 of the Grand Champions League Strawberry season. This is the stage that brought me into the finals for the first time ever. Although back then we used Lollipop Cookie as the main cookie and not Cream Puff here. To make sure that Devsisters really does rip out that stage and put it here on main round 3 at the Grand Champions League Strawberry Cream season, I checked my video when I did the Grand Champions League Strawberry season, specifically in the semi-finals round 3, and everything that you see here, all of the jellies, the placement, and the order in which the player needs to collect are all exactly the same. The only major differences are just two, which was Lollipop Cookie ends the run a lot sooner and therefore made what happened next will be a lot easier compared to what Cream Puff here. And last but not least, in this run there is the word ends at the start of the run. That's not like a subtlety that my run is about to end at the Grand Champions League, but it's a part of a code that the player can type in and get, I think it was extra diamonds or rainbow cubes that the player could get. But yeah, that's not a subtlety, that's not a foreshadowing, that's just a part of a code. And the stages are exactly the same too. At first we start at the place where Walnut Cookies trial took place, and now we are at the Grandmaster Hotel lobby. This is the place where Earl Grey Cookies trial took place. Oh yes, I just realized now, the treasure sets are completely different compared to the run with Lollipop Cookie back then. So that's not too major difference in this run compared to the run with Lollipop Cookie. In fact, there's 3 major difference that I noticed. If you spot even more difference in this run compared to the run that I did in the Grand Champions League Strawberry season, specifically in the semi-finals round 3, then let me know in the comment section down below. And with that out of the way, I do want to mention the scheduling for the next couple of videos. So I haven't played Red Velvet Cookies trial, I have to admit, and I haven't played Strawberry Shortcake Cookies trial either, so that 2 cookie trials will be my top priority for the next couple of videos. And I will also release all of my top 100 cookie trials collection that I've gathered so far, and yeah, I can't wait to release all of them. And here comes the part in the run where most of my attempts at conquering this particular challenge dies, simply because it's very difficult to avoid all of these bitter berry jellies, because even if the player gets one of these bitter berry jelly party, then it will be, well, the attempt will be over, and no matter how good the player's run in Herb Cookie's turn, as the relay cookie will recover the massive fatal mistake that the player create by hitting either one of those bitter berry jelly party. If this was Grand Champions League Strawberry Cookie season, then that particular part will not matter so much because Lollipop Cookie's turn to run ended much earlier. And for those of you who do wonder where are we right now, this is the place where Just Choco Cookies trial took place. This is located at the basement of the Grandmaster Hotel. And speaking of Just Choco Cookie, can I just give a rant for a second? Why in the world Devsisters decided to make Just Choco Cookie an appearance in CookieRun Kingdom but not Earl Grey Cookie? A cookie that is literally their parental figure. And for some reason, the place that they were introduced, it's called the Grandmaster Hotel and not the Grandmaster Hotel, even if the structure of the building maintained the same idea as the Grandmaster Hotel. I have no idea. I have no words for this one. Right, time for the closure of this video. Yeah, this is just a formality at this point. Congratulations to all those people who vote for Carol Cookie. She finally got the Grand Champions League costume that she rightfully deserved, because It was a long time ago that she got a costume. I even forgot when she got a costume until I have to look at the wiki, and it turns out that she received her first costume in the Butter Painting Affair update. That was the update that I decided to come back to play this game once again, and I played until today. Anyway, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. This is Alzeroy signing it off, and have a nice day everyone.